Yeah, this album is dedicated to all the teachers that told me I never amount to nothing. To all the people that lived above the buildings that I was hustling from that called the police on me when I was just trying to make some money to feed my daughter.
Yeah.
And to all my peoples in the struggle, you know what I'm saying? It's all good, baby.
Shake it.
It was all a good...
Welcome, Bucks fans, back to Buck Life, the Hardcore Milwaukee Buck fan podcast made by Hardcore Milwaukee Bucks fans for Hardcore Milwaukee Bucks fans. And we have a little international flavor on our show today. I'm Jacob Anderson. With me, as always, is my co-host Chuck Schilling. Welcome, Chuck.
How's everyone doing today? It's beautiful spring, a little early here for Wisconsin standards. We're recording this just so you have a frame of reference.
Don't jinx it.
Right before the Miami
this.
Heat game on March 9th. It's about 70 degrees outside after a relatively mild winter. It's beautiful. I'm going to say that our guest probably brought the weather with him. We've got a guest from down under, Leigh. How you doing today, Leigh?
Yeah, good, very good. G'day, guys. How we doing?
Top of the morning to you. Did I get that right?
That's Irish.
That's Australian,
kinda.
right? No, it's Australian. It's awesome.
We'll run with it.
But yeah, it's been a few weeks, a little longer break in between episodes. Our last episode was actually the live trade deadline coverage, but we had our normally scheduled weekend was Jake's wife's birthday, and then we knew Leigh was coming into town, and we wanted to get him on as a guest, so we kind of delayed it for a special guest. So you can throw all your hate mail at Leigh, even though you probably don't know how to get a hold of him. But we are back and excited about the way a couple players have been playing lately.
Well, before we get into that, let's talk to Leigh a little bit. Leigh, how'd you become a Bucks fan? What's the story behind your fandom here?
Well, as you guys know, I was in Squad 6 back in the day. I think it was the second year that it was running. So my wife's originally from here. I moved to Milwaukee. I'm a basketball fan generally from way back, and my boy Bogut was in the team at the time, so got into the Squad 6. Luckily was able to meet Bogut and met you guys through it and made a lot of friends through it and just carried on from there, so I wasn't necessarily a Bucks fan until I got here, but I've been a pretty hardcore fan since then.
Did you have a team when you were in Australia before Bogut, before you moved to Milwaukee? Did you have an NBA team that you watched, or was it just kind of players?
Well, it was more the sport.
Okay.
I'm probably showing my age a little bit. I was in like the equivalent of middle school and high school through the 90s. So it was the era of the Bulls. Jordan.
He was a fan of Dolph Shays and Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Not that old.
Not quite that old. But no, more the sport. Just I didn't have any specific team I followed. Obviously, we watched only what they showed on TV, but saw highlights through the week.
Lots of Jordan then, probably.
Yeah, there was. There
90s.
was lots of Jordan, and I'd never say I was a Bulls fan, and it'd be sad to admit that. But saw a lot of the Bulls at the time, and I was actually a big. Funny enough, I was actually a big Jason Kidd fan, because that was probably at the height of when I was playing. When he was drafted, I think he went number 1 to the Mavs.
Number 3.
Was it 3? Okay.
Glenn Robinson went number 1 to the Bucks that year. Then Grant Hill, number 2, which broke my heart because I was obsessed with Grant Hill. And then number 3 was Jason Kidd. But that was a year where Kidd and Grant Hill shared Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, right. So if Kidd went to the Bucks then, I probably would have been a long-time Bucks fan.
Sure.
Appreciated his game, and it's really nice to see him back as coach.
Definitely one of the all-time most fun players to watch on a basketball court. In Australia, I got to ask, what's the popularity of the NBA like over there? I mean, is it straight? Do most people follow the Australian players like a Bogut or Dante Exum or Dellavedova, or is it kind of a diverse thing where everybody has their teams?
It's a little bit of both. We always love an underdog, and we love seeing the people from our own country do well. So everyone was a fan of Bogut and probably gave the Bucks a bit more recognition when he joined the Bucks.
I was going to say, there's probably some maybe leftover Bucks fans that they took on that team because of Bogut, and even after he left, you just kind of keep your team.
Yeah, exactly.
Certainly
no doubt.
there are.
No doubt.
You see him on Real GM for anyone who posts there.
That's true.
There's a good 5 or 6 regular posters who are some of the top contributors who I know are Australian. And Leigh, I don't think you really post there. I don't even know if you post there ever.
Not on GM. No, I haven't got into it. Maybe I should.
That's
probably a good way to start.
I didn't think I'd ever seen you on there, but there are some others, and I'm Facebook friends with a couple of them, and otherwise I see them on the forums. So there are definitely at least a couple dozen hardcore Bucks fans who are from Australia, and it's mostly because of Bogut. I mean, basketball to me is one of the biggest international sports. I mean, I think worldwide it's second behind soccer.
Sure.
But it is the biggest in terms of U.S.-based sports that has international appeal. It's number one, more than the NFL, even though the NFL is the moneymaker of all sports anywhere in the world.
Yeah, most definitely. Like in Australia, I mean, people could name, if you just pick someone off the street, like just general sports fans, they could pick a lot more NBA teams than they could NFL teams.
Sure.
I think people don't realise that like the Milwaukee Bucks as a household name would be better known than the Green Bay Packers.
Well,
which is weird. You know, for me now, having lived here,
seeing the craziness.
Yeah, how much everyone loves their Packers. But
well, and you got Australian rules football there. Not to get off topic, but I remember the first time I ever saw Australian rules football, I was sitting in a bar, and I thought I was way drunker than I was because I look up on the TV, and I could not figure out what was going on, but it was awesome. Like, I see the referee come out, and, like, there's two teams just kind of standing around. All of a sudden, the referee bounces this football-looking thing off the turf. It goes flying up, and then, like, this weird rugby, football, soccer thing starts to happen, and I'm starting to get into it, and then, like, the guy's running for what I think is the end zone, like a touchdown, and I'm like, yeah. And all of a sudden he stops and like drop kicks the ball into this like 4-foot like hole in the wall. I'm like, what the hell just happened? I don't know. I still don't know what the hell's going on, but I need to get more into it.
It's a tough sport. It's a tough sport to follow. It's almost like watching under 6 kids play soccer. Like just this scrum of people around the ball, and it's the only sport I know where you still get a point for missing.
Oh,
you
really?
get 6 points for kicking like a goal,
for effort.
And then there's like little goals beside those goals. So if you just miss, you still get a point.
Well,
yeah, I watched. There was one year the championship game, and I think it ended in a tie, and then they play a second game like a week later. And
because that's like their Super Bowl. So like, could you imagine buying a ticket to the Super Bowl and then it ends in a tie, and then there's another Super Bowl?
Yeah, so it was one of the weirdest things I had ever seen. And I had not a clue what was going on. That was very true. And you'll get these odd sports on ESPN or ESPN2 late at night, especially. I've watched Australian rules football. I've watched a little cricket, and I don't have a damn clue what's going on.
But you watch anyways.
I mean,
it's interesting.
You pick a team to root for, and you think they're doing something good, and then you find out it's bad, and you don't know what's going on. But it's still interesting.
It's hard for Americans to handle. I think cricket's a good example. You can have a 5-day match that ends in a draw.
Oh my god!
So
I'm sure
you just don't. Americans don't get that.
I'm sure Australians probably look at the NFL in that sense when they're watching, like, what the hell is going on? So it's just interesting.
Yeah, most definitely.
But Australia, I mean, it is become a little bit more of a breeding ground for some NBA talent. I think it kind of started with Bogut. Before him, I think the most high-profile Australian player is probably Luke Longley.
Yeah, that'd be it.
On the Bulls. And then since then, you've had Bogut, as I mentioned, Matthew Dellavedova, Patty Mills, Dante Exum. And then there's the next, I mean, it could be a big superstar, is Ben Simmons. He's the consensus #1 overall pick and one of my latest obsessions to go along with Grayson Allen and Jakob Poeltl. But what's the deal with Simmons? I mean, when in Australia, do people look at him? Is he like LeBron? Like, is he going to be the national hero?
Yeah, well, only time will tell. It's kind of a funny one because we don't really follow like the college sports. We follow the NBA most definitely, but we don't follow college basketball until someone like this comes along. So it's kind of it's a wait and see. Like there's a lot of hype around him, and people are starting to watch like college basketball. So it's hard for us to get around, all the different, because we don't have much of an understanding, all the different tournaments and ranking system and everything. But everyone's trying to get into it. So once he comes up to the NBA and the expectation is that he's going to be #1 overall pick, Australia's already starting to get behind him, and I think
that'd
really
be the second overall #1 pick for the country of Australia. It's pretty impressive for relatively in the grand scheme of things. Australia's a relatively small country population wise. Basketball players even crossing the seas to play here in the U.S. and have 2 #1 overall picks.
Technically, it would be #3 because Kyrie Irving.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I kind of forget about Kyrie Irving.
We forget our half Aussie Kyrie Irving.
Yeah. I do forget about that. So yeah, that's pretty impressive for a relatively small country to have that sort of success at the top of the draft.
Yeah, and we hope it continues, and it probably will.
And it's got to be good for the popularity of the sport over there. So
definitely.
Well, and with the difference, I think with Simmons and Bogut is, Bogut wasn't really that hyped until really the second half of his sophomore year in college, and he just exploded. Whereas Simmons, throughout his high school, career, became kind of the next big thing. So I think, there's a lot more potential for him to be that national hero.
Yeah, and the hype is there. Like more hype over him than there was Exum, and from memory, at least, more hype than Bogut, definitely. So.
The thing with a player like Simmons is Bogut has had a really good NBA career. He's got a ring. Defensively, he's been good. If not for the injury, we don't know where his career would be. But Simmons, athletically, he has that potential to be the top 5 player. A LeBron, a Carmelo.
He's drawn a lot of LeBron comparisons.
He's in that range. Athletically, he's right there. And those players, as much as I loved watching Bogut during the Fear the Deer year execute defensively, watch him kind of watch a defender and just get that block shot or that charge. That's phenomenal. But your casual fan, and even me, you like watching those explosive, really super athletic freaks like a LeBron, like a Giannis, and all the other names.
And we can only hope the Bucks get him.
Oh, I was just going to say,
happen, but we can only hope.
I would do very dirty things to get Ben Simmons added to this young core, but that's kind of our next topic of discussion is the team as of late, and really, mostly the young core. And I consider the core pieces at this point for sure to be Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has just exploded since the move to point guard on offense, and then you have Jabari Parker, who's finally starting to put it together. It looks like, as far as the confidence, and then Chris Middleton, who's kind of been up and down this year, but overall a modern NBA player and a guy that you want to keep around. So
he plays D and he hits the 3. That's. If you do that, you have a spot on any NBA roster. So there's not a team in the league, if he's a free agent signing for a reasonable contract, almost every team in the league would gladly take him.
Sure.
No doubt.
I got to eat a little bit of crow on Jabari because I've been very critical of him, and I think mostly it was because I was just terrified that we waited a long time to get this guy with this kind of ceiling, and then our luck was that it wouldn't pan out after the injury, and it was befuddling to me because physically he looked to me even more explosive than last year, but mentally it just seemed the confidence wasn't there. He would get the ball wide open with a guy sagging off 3 feet, and he didn't have the even idea to shoot. It was like, who's the first person I could find to pass to here? So I don't know if that's a Coach Kidd thing, if that's a Jabari thing, but I'm very happy to see him confidently shooting the jumpers and even shooting some threes and making threes lately.
Hit 2 threes in the last week. The first ones of the season, I think, of his career. I don't recall him hitting any last season.
I think it was just this season. I
think he did hit some. I'll pull up the stats while we're recording here.
That's beautiful, or a miracle of modern technology. By the way, if you hear some screaming in we're not torturing anybody. That's just my 10-month-old daughter. She is in the next room, so I want to get that out of the way in case people are tuning out. Like, what is this sick shit that I'm listening to right now?
We do. Oh yeah, he did. Last year he was 4 out of 16 from 3, and he's 2 out of 14 this year. So. Definitely nice to get the lid off the hoop. And I have to say, since the All-Star break, and I don't know if going to the All-Star game had anything to do with it, or if he's just becoming more confident in that knee, but he's looked a lot more aggressive. We've seen career high. I think he set his career high at least twice, maybe 3 times since the All-Star game, which I believe now sits at 36 points that he had in that one game where Giannis had a triple-double as well. It is phenomenal to see it, and we know that an ACL injury is typically a 12 to 15 month injury, and he did it. We're at that point where he should be 100%. So if this is what we see going forward, aggressive Jabari along with point Giannis, that's looking like a thing of genius. Oh man, I'm
yeah, and to be fair, this year is probably the best thing that could have happened to Jabari, because last year, obviously, the injury was terrible, but there was such high expectation. We got him 2nd overall, and he probably felt that pressure that he has to carry this franchise. This year, we're not doing so well, so there's less pressure in that sense. Plus, Giannis just coming out of nowhere, or not coming out of nowhere, but having a ridiculously good year, and Chris Middleton picking it up as well. There's that weight off Jabari's shoulders. He doesn't feel he has to carry.
He doesn't need any more weight. We've been over that. But I mean, can you guys make me feel a little bit better so I don't feel like a jerk? I mean, tell me that you were questioning him a little bit coming into this year if he was going to be the player that we thought he was. I mean, am I the only one?
There were other people. You're not the only one, but I wasn't quite as down on him as you were. And we've had this conversation probably on the podcast and off the podcast that you got to give a guy a time to come back from a serious injury like that.
I don't have to do anything, damn it.
Yeah, you are very impatient sometimes, and
no, I'm not.
Jake loves to get a conclusion on what a player is like, and it's very hard to change his mind. So I am proud of him for making this.
I said I'm very happy to eat crow. It's
right.
the best tasting thing I've ever had. You can deep fry it. I can put it on a sandwich. It's all good.
And to be fair, I think he's probably when I see him, he's deceivingly athletic. That's kind of a way to put it. Like,
sure.
He does not look like he's going to be as athletic and as explosive
he's kind
as
of
he is.
roly-poly,
Yeah.
Like, he's got a little bit of baby fat.
And, like, I saw him, probably when I really noticed it was at the All-Star break. He played the sophomores. Or
the World game. I think it's World versus the U.S. now. It used to be rookies versus sophomores, but they had a point where the sophomore team was garbage or the rookie team was garbage. I think it was last year. All the rookies were injured.
Well, no,
so
I think they did it last year.
Yeah,
was World versus
because Jabari, X of all the players were injured last year.
Yeah, and it just looked like during that game, like there was at one stage, he just looked like he was plodding along, and then he just pulled out like a windmill jam out of nowhere. I'm like, it's just he's deceivingly athletic.
He definitely, he looks a little soft. He looks kind of just like another guy. And I'm sure, you take off his jersey, I'm sure he's pretty ripped. Maybe he doesn't have a full-on six-pack, but make
Chuck,
no mistake
what's going on here? This is Chuck's letter to Penthouse.
Yeah, hey, if we can get Jabari Parker as the centerfold, Bucks fans will be all over.
Have we got some Eddie Lacy comparison?
Yeah. Eddie Lacy, last I saw, looked a little slimmed down. I'm fingers crossed there.
P90X?
The P90X is a legit workout. So, to me, the most exciting thing, I'm happy Jabari's playing good. For me, Giannis is the most exciting part here because to have a 7-foot-tall point forward, whatever you want to call him.
No doubt.
Zach Lowe wrote an article about it. He was talking about how defensively they were going against, I don't even remember who it was going, but the point guard was ending up guarding Giannis because of all the switching.
I think it was when they played Minnesota.
Yes, you're right. It was Rubio was guarding Giannis on defense, and then when we're going the other way, Giannis was guarding Karl Anthony Towns.
Right.
So then when you get down there, you're coming back down the court. The mismatches are just out of control.
Yeah.
And I've been telling people since his rookie year, casual fans, not you guys know, Jake knows, we knew the potential. The question was always how much of his ceiling is he going to hit, and that's still a question because he's not at his ceiling yet. There's room to grow.
And what is he? 22?
21.
Yeah.
21.
So
barely 21.
He's got plenty of years.
I've been telling casual fans for 3 years that this guy has the potential to be a top 5, a top 10 player, and it's just a matter of can he hit that potential. And to see him moving into that role and getting those triple doubles. And being a triple-double threat legitimately every game. He's gotten 3 in the last 7 games. He missed a 4th one by 1 rebound in which he had an opportunity for a rebound and just kind of fumbled the ball away. It is a thing of beauty, and I'm glad, it's nice to be right when you're telling these casual fans, hey, just wait, the future's going to be good, the future's going to be good. And the record right now is not there, but I'm already excited for next year.
Sure.
This year, we're not going into the playoffs. I hope they keep losing. Unfortunately, they keep playing at 500, something we've been hammering on for about 2 months now, 3 months maybe even. I don't even know how long that every episode we talk about how they're playing at a roughly 500 pace, and it sucks. But the young guys coming along makes it all worth it. The last couple weeks since the All-Star break, it has been really fun to watch and listen to the games on the radio.
Yeah, I can't wait for tonight. Just seeing Giannis in his prime in that point position.
Well, we're going to talk a little bit more about Point Giannis, but we can't talk about the team without bringing some negativity into this. I mean, after all, it wouldn't be a Bucks podcast if we didn't go negative at some point. But there's a couple bits of news. Number one being Michael Carter-Williams is reportedly out for the season with torn hip labrum surgery, which apparently he's been playing with this for a couple months. and they finally went. I don't know if he re-injured it or if they just decided to go ahead with the surgery.
We should call my wife in from the next room. She's a nurse. She might be able to give us some insight onto what a torn hip labrum is.
Well,
we'll see if we can get some info on this.
The timing of this was very weird because the Bucks were, by all accounts, trying to trade Michael Carter-Williams at the trade deadline. He was moved to a bench role, which he had done earlier, and then they eventually moved him back. But now, out of nowhere, there was no reports that he, had re-injured anything or that anything happened in practice. And lo and behold, he's done for the year. I mean, do you guys think it's maybe a disagreement with management? Or, I mean, to me, what I could see happening is them going to him and saying, you need to have this surgery. We know you can play on it, but we don't have a role for you right now. So it looks better for the team. It looks better for you if we just shut you down rather than you being on the team and riding pine because we're not going to play you. So it wouldn't surprise me, but again, the timing just seems fishy to me.
It wouldn't be it wouldn't be the first time a team shut a player down for a non-serious injury, but I don't like to get into speculating too much.
Because it is real. He is having surgery.
He has a real injury. How bad it is, it's so much speculation there. It could be either way. This could be very much like Jason Kidd. He had his hip injury. He was trying to play through it. Decided to have the surgery when the team was struggling. Maybe if the team was doing good, he'd play through it. Maybe MCW, if we're at, on pace for 40, 50 wins, maybe he plays through it. I don't know. I never like to question someone's toughness and what the medical decisions are because when you're talking an injury, that's something you're going to potentially deal with the rest of your life. And, so I don't want to speculate too much, but it certainly is beneficial for the team to shut him down.
I was just going to say, Leigh, do you miss MCW now that he's not playing and we see what they can do when he's not on the floor?
Well, I mean, it's great to see. I mean, was MCW really the future of the team? Not that I don't wish an injury on anyone, but it does give a chance for, not that MCW is old, but, like some of the other younger players to get out there, like Rashad Vaughn, it probably gives him more of a chance, gives chance to see what Giannis can actually do. So is it a horrible thing for the team for the rest of this year? Maybe not. Does it mean, if we were trying to move MCW on, are we going to lose all of his value, him getting shut down for the season if we try to move him on next season? We'll see, but, best case scenario, he was playing with an injury, so he wasn't at his prime, and he comes back from the injury and he can carry more weight.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I don't know that it hurts his value that much because I don't think he has that much value right now. And assuming he'll be healthy for training camp next season, if someone's going to take a flyer on him and give us a second round or another young player who's overseas or in the D-League, I don't think that really changes much because he's still on a cheap contract. He still does play good defense and has really good size for a point guard. He just turns the ball over and can't shoot it, which we've harped on all season long, which are important skills for a point guard. So, for me, it doesn't hurt his trade value all that much. But I guess remains to be seen what we do with him in the offseason. That's a big question. That's one of the big question marks when we hit the offseason this year.
And it does hurt. I mean, for as well as our young core is playing and as bright as the future looks, to think that in that Brandon Knight trade, we could have had that Lakers first-round pick that, it could be, if they end up at 4 or worse, you could have that.
Well, isn't it top 5 protected?
It's top 3 protected this year.
Okay.
Last year was top 5.
Okay.
And then next year it's unprotected. So it does kind of sting to know that with all that, you could have that extra high pick in your back pocket.
And that's where they're at. It looks very likely they're going to finish with the second worst overall record. So all they would need is one team to jump them, and they'd be at 4. Yeah, well, I guess you need 2 teams to jump them.
I think the percentage, it's like a 45% chance of them being 4th or worse if they end up being reduced. So that's still
a coin flip
just
for
about
a top,
50-50.
And being at number 2, the worst that pick would be is 5. So you're talking a coin flip chance at the number 4 or number 5 pick, and then I don't think it's protected at all next season.
Right.
So,
so that trade, I think it's an unmitigated disaster. Not because we miss Brandon Knight that much, but what you missed out on for between the three of us, I don't think he's going to end up playing in another game as a Milwaukee Buck, and that will either trade him or maybe just waive him or not pick up his option and move on. And it does kind of suck to think that that's a wasted asset. But.
Yeah, that's true. Hindsight's 2020, but at the time, I mean, obviously we'd love a top 3 pick, but at the time I did not mind that trade. The idea of MCW, it hasn't panned out, but the idea of a pass first point guard with the players we had around him,
and he's
great.
Cheap
and
too. You don't have to pay him, and
he's cheap, young. He's athletic. We knew he could defend already, and he's a pass first point guard. So the idea was great at the time. The trade was great, but I'd have to agree with Jake that it's going to become a disaster. It was not good in the end.
At the time, I would have preferred the Lakers pick, not just with hindsight, but I didn't hate it as much as some people did. I thought there was a chance, because like you said, pass first, play defense. I thought there was a chance he could be a good fit if he could just improve his jump shot. He never did. He continued to turn the ball over at a higher rate than I would like from a point guard. And in hindsight, it definitely would have preferred that pick. And even at the time, I preferred the pick, but it wasn't a cut and dry. It was like 60-40, 65-35, whatever the percentage was. It was certainly more for the pick, but I wasn't crushed over it at the time. But in hindsight, oh man, it would be looking really good to have our pick plus potentially the Lakers pick for this next draft.
You guys want to talk a little bit more positive now?
Yeah, let's go.
Too bad. It's time to talk about Greg Monroe. Swerved you there a little bit. It's quite clear to me that that move hasn't worked out, and that he doesn't seem like a great fit with this core. He's a very talented player, and he's a unique player, but it just goes to show you how much better the Bucks are when they're playing a fringe level. I'm not trying to be mean or anything, but Miles Plumlee to me is a fringe level NBA player with very basic skills, very athletic, but he's definitely a role player, and it's night and day difference when you see a guy like him on the court versus Greg Monroe, who slows the team down, kind of plods a little bit, doesn't have any defensive skills. So it seems to me that 2 of your 5 starters coming into this year, I think they're going to move on from next year, and he doesn't appear happy. The Bucks don't appear happy with the way he's been playing lately either. So as great as this young core is, it's kind of crazy to think about how different things could be next season. If they move on from Monroe and Michael Carter-Williams, but. What do you guys think? Is he salvageable, or do you think it's time to just move on at the end of the season?
Personally, I think we need to cut our losses on him. I wasn't crazy excited when we signed Monroe in the first place. It was nice to see someone wanting to come to the Bucks, and that was a big step forward. New management, a player coming over on, correct me if I'm wrong, but like a max contract and and wanting to come here. So. It was good from that point of view. I didn't know he was ever going to be that great a fit. I think we probably should have stayed with the core of the young players and not necessarily pulled the trigger on someone at that point. Maybe if we did that in a couple of years' time, once Giannis is a bit reaches that ceiling we keep talking about. Once Jabari is fully back from injury, then maybe. A player that we bring in on a max contract. We brought him in too early, and I didn't think he was the right fit at the time, and he's not the right fit now. I think we need to cut our losses. And
you're right. Talking about the right timing in that, because this ownership team, the management, they all talked about that we're not going to rush this rebuilding process. Well, by all accounts, they rushed it. When you sign a max player after 1 year of moderate success, you trade 2 of the role players that kind of were leaders on the team in Zaza and Jared Dudley, and even Ersan to a point, basically for nothing in return to free up that salary to sign a player like Monroe. You're right. They rushed the process. They lied to us.
Yeah, it's certainly, it was exciting. Just like Leigh said, the excitement behind Monroe signing to me was someone actually wanting to come to Milwaukee, but at the same time, I did feel we were 2, maybe 3 years off from being at a point where we should chase a top free agent in order to be that final piece. We don't have enough pieces in place to go for the final piece, especially with Jabari coming off the injury. We just didn't know what he would be this year. The coaching staff and the front office, they can lie to you all they want. They'll say, oh, we knew this is what we had in Jabari. And I'll say, bullshit. You didn't know because he's coming off of an ACL tear. No one knew, not even Jabari. You can hope that that's what he was going to be and that he'd be this by the end of the year, but we just didn't know. So we always talked, and we talked about this in our season preview before the season even started. Our biggest fear of Greg Monroe was how would he fit with the rest of the players. We've been talking about this all season long. It doesn't fit. Actually, from a winning standpoint, I think he's far better coming off the bench for the Bucks. And even there, he's still a huge defensive liability. If he could play respectable defense and come off the bench and abuse the backup centers in the league, I think he could be a great sixth man. But he doesn't play good defense. So, to me, not a good fit. He puts up good numbers. I think he's averaging 17 and 10 or something like that, maybe even 18 points. I'd have to pull up.
They've dipped a little bit.
Yeah, they've dipped a little bit since he's been on the bench, but whatever. He's putting up 15 and 10, and if you throw him in a starting role and make him a focal point of the offense, he could probably put up 20 and 10, no problem. The problem is that we don't need or want that with our roster, so he's not a good fit.
Well,
but he should have value to someone.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to have, no matter what the fit is, a max player coming off the bench. You just don't see that. But you're right, there is some hope for his value. I mean, there was reportedly he was a phone call away from being traded for Dwight Howard at the trade deadline, who just wouldn't accept the next year's option for his contract, and that's why that trade didn't happen. But there is, with the NBA salary cap going up this year, I read somewhere that there's going to be, I can't remember how many teams, but 24 maximum salary slots available in the offseason. So if you have a team that, say, they strike out on a Kevin Durant, or they try to sign a couple max guys, they get spurned. Now maybe, you have that salary slot, you want to make a splashy move. Greg Monroe is a double-double machine, and, if he fits better potentially, maybe you would give up some value there. So I haven't given up the hope that we're going to get something, and I haven't given up the hope that he's not going to be an asset, because by signing him and not having to give up anything for him in the first place, you created an asset out of nowhere potentially. So really, it's like something for nothing if you end up getting a nice piece for him in the off season.
Yeah, and that's certainly, I have to imagine, the team and Greg Monroe, to their credit, have been nothing but professional. We haven't heard a peep about him coming off the bench, being disgruntled, anything like that. So props to him for being a team player.
He's classy in the strip clubs.
Exactly. He makes it rain a little bit, but in a classy way.
Yeah.
So I give him credit for that, because you could, being a max contract guy, the big free agent signing, New York wanted him, LA, all these teams wanted him in the offseason. And he could go to the media and bitch about it, but he's taken it like a man. So I think for the good of Greg Monroe, for the good of the Milwaukee Bucks, you have to trade him in the offseason. You have to get something of value in return. Put him in a better position, put us in a better position. Win-win for everyone all around, because he is still, I looked up his numbers, 16 points, 9.5 boards, and that's dipping, and it'll probably continue to dip, but that's right around his career averages. Yeah, that's pretty much, he's a 16 and 10 guy his entire career. If you look at his stats, other than his rookie year, that's pretty much what he's put up every single year. And there's no reason to think that won't continue. He's not that old. He's only 25 years old, so he has value. We've just got to maximize it. And I'm glad we didn't trade him for Dwight, because that's not the type of move I want to trade for. That's not maximizing your asset to me. That's taking on more baggage. That would have been reminiscent of Corey Maggette or Monta Ellis. That's just not the type of move we need to make with the new regime.
I have nightmares about moves like that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know who nixed that, who was for it, who put the nix, kibosh on it, whatever you want to say. I'm just glad it didn't happen in the end.
Come on, man. Bring Corey Maggette back. He gets to the line.
Double G.
He gets to the line.
All right.
Doggle me, Slim.
Let's finally talk about something worth talking about, and that's Giannis at point guard. I mean, since the move has been made, he's exploded as far as his production, and so is Jabari Parker. So you get the double whammy there. But my question to you guys is this sustainable? Can he stick being the primary ball handler, initiator of the offense long term for the majority of his career in Milwaukee?
I would like to personally think so. We've said this since he was a rookie, at least I have, that he has good hands for a big guy. The question with Giannis has always been, is he going to be able to develop a shot? And his shot has slowly improved throughout the years. He's right now struggling with free throws a little bit because of the whole 10-second thing. Someone called him out on it. He was taking 12, 13 seconds. He's not really hitting any three-pointers. Here and there, he'll hit one, and his mid-range shot is okay, not great. But certainly he's had good handle and good vision his entire NBA career. Even as a rookie, you saw times where he'd make a pass that was just ridiculous. Not as much now that he's the primary ball handler. So, to me, I hope so. I think at least for the rest of this season, we've got about 20 games left. We got to see. Actually, I think we've got exactly 20 games left if memory serves correctly. I'll look that up while we're here. But we've got to at least see how it pans out over the next 20 games or so and see what happens. And that'll kind of be a good barometer of what we want to do next season.
Yeah, with MCW's injury, I mean, we're going to get a really good sample size.
18 games left.
There we go, 18 games. So with MCW's injury, we're going to get a good sample size. We're going to get that, whatever we've had with him, last 8 games or something, plus the next 18. That's going to be a really good sample size. But I think I'm with Chuck, I like to think it is sustainable. How awesome would it be if he's our point guard going forward? He's got plenty of years ahead of him. I think what he is missing, and I'll have to agree with Chuck here, is the jump shot. He adds a jump shot to his ball handling skills, to his athleticism, and we've got an all-round point guard that could be all-time, Well,
I was just going to say, it's just, there's a lot of naysayers, and I think it's just because this is something we haven't seen before. I mean, Magic Johnson was probably, one of the greatest of all time. He doesn't have the length that Giannis has. He didn't have the explosion that Giannis has athletically. So, like I said, because you just haven't seen it before, I think a lot more people are doubting it. But you can't doubt the results that we've seen so far. It's not only, just from a pure number standpoint, but you can see how much better the team plays, and it's some of the most exciting basketball I've ever seen as a Bucks fan. Granted, I haven't seen a whole lot of it, but it's definitely one of the most fun teams I can remember watching now that they've made this move. And I think the question going forward is, if you're going to keep him in this role, what's going to be the best type of fits around him? Now, Jabari is obviously locked in as one of the guys in your core. Middleton looks like a great fit. He's a two-way player, shoots threes, plays defense, good offensive player. But that leaves center and I guess the other guard spot. Now, I don't think you need an actual point guard in a lineup here if you're running Giannis at point forward or point guard, whatever you want to say. So there are some guys in this draft that could potentially be a great fit in the starting five in the role that Mayo has now, but more of a supercharged version. We all know my obsession with Grayson Allen from Duke. He plays two guard there, but he does have good passing skills. He's a good shooter, scrappy defender. Buddy Hield is having an insane season at Oklahoma. Hitting threes just anywhere in the gym range. But I think just the key is going to be getting guys to space the floor around him and that aren't going to be defensive liabilities.
I'm not as high on Grayson Allen as you are.
Well, you can go fuck yourself.
But with Giannis at the point guard position, I think he'd be a great fit because he can play the defense. He's real scrappy. Code word for white. Real scrappy, high energy guy, gym rat. All those terms that mean he's white.
He is athletic. I call him the little bowling ball.
He hits the three. He plays good defense. I think he's exactly the type of player. Buddy Hield would be a great fit, but I don't think he's going to be on the board where the Bucks are going to be picking, unfortunately. He'll probably be gone before then. I'm not sure where he's projected to go right now.
That's in the air, because he's a senior.
That's
there's
true.
This, people may not think that the potential is there. So I've seen him as high as like 6 or 7 in some drafts. I've seen him go, up to 20 in some mock drafts. So
maybe he's on there as an option. I think both of those guys would actually be pretty good fits. What I want at the other guard position, you call it the point guard, because I really still consider Giannis kind of a point forward more than a point guard. I know he's handling the ball defensively. He's kind of guarding centers and forwards, whatever position. Our entire offense, the positions are more or less irrelevant to me. You're going to have 5 guys out there, and we're going to create a ton of mismatches with all our size. So to me, I want someone who
Size is very important to Chuck.
Size is very important to me. Get
That's
someone.
why you got an Aussie in the house. That's all right.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. So get someone who can hit the three, play respectable defense, and then same from the center position. I just want someone who plays defense. We've talked about it before. I'm not quite sure if we talked about it on the show or if we've just talked about it in person off the show. But the perfect fit is probably Larry Sanders. Sadly, I think we actually did talk about that. When we were talking about Larry Sanders.
Please do it.
Do it.
I heard you guys on the podcast the other day. You'd have to be a pretty serious contract, maybe one that hasn't been seen before. But I'm all for it. I love
everyone
Larry.
Who doesn't love a good redemption story, though? That's to me. And John Henson wouldn't be the worst fit if he could stay healthy and if he could play aggressive. When John Henson gets slapped around a little bit, pull his jersey, and angry John Henson comes out, and he's like the Hulk, and he gets mad.
He's like the groundhog. You see him once a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Angry John Henson.
When he is that player, he'd be a great fit because he's a good rim protector and everything we need. He's just too timid, and lately he's been injured. So
it is aggression that we're. As far as I can tell, it's aggression that we're missing. Giannis can get aggressive. Jabari, I don't think he has it in him. Henson doesn't really have it in him.
I agree. We need
a bit
some
of aggression.
edge.
Get Bogut back. Like a brawler. Someone who doesn't take anything. He doesn't take any.
Like
shit.
our Ron Artest or a Dennis Rodman.
No,
not that far. Not that far.
A loose cannon. No, you don't want one
or
of
a
those.
boogie. You get boogie.
Well, that's one of the reasons I like Grayson Allen is he kind of has a little bit of that edge to him, but it does put a smile on my face thinking about that. Like contract year, Larry Sanders blocking 8 shots in a game and just running the floor and dunking nasty on people. Like picture him with this team.
Yeah.
Oh, and getting called for a technical foul, giving the refs a thumbs up.
Yeah. Getting the crowd involved. Like he was a character.
Well, and I can guarantee you the way that the Bucks got punked last year in that Bulls series doesn't happen if Larry Sanders is on that team.
Agreed.
Mike Dunleavy would get punched in the face again by Larry Sanders.
Yeah.
But Plumlee is doing a great job in that role.
Plumlee has
maybe you keep him around.
Right. Yeah.
Plumlee has been so pleasantly surprising for me. Going into the season, I thought he's this big plotting oaf like one Luke Longley out of Australia. Just a 7-footer.
That's a low blow, man.
Hey, the truth hurts sometimes. That's what I had this picture of him being, not very coordinated. He's 7 feet. If you're 7 feet tall, you can play in the NBA if you want to. It doesn't matter how coordinated you are. If you're 7 feet tall, you have a job in the NBA.
But he has been a pleasant surprise. He did look like the next John Brockman.
Yeah.
For a little while there.
Yeah. 6'8" John Brockman.
You know who he reminds me of is he kind of reminds me of like a Dan Gadzarich that actually has a brain. Like kind of a smarter Dan Gadzarich because they're both tremendous athletes for their size, shot blockers, rebounders, and that. And I forget. I think it might have been Charles Garden who put out a piece that the Bucks, with what they had in their starting 5, was that they had no role players. They had 5 guys that thought they were the man or that potentially could be the man. So maybe you need a guy like a Plumlee who's not so heralded, but he just goes in there and does the little things, does the garbage work, and maybe that's what's best for their starting 5. And we're talking about coming in next year. He's a restricted free agent, so say you can get a guy like Plumlee locked in for about $5 million a year, and some people say, well, that's ludicrous. Well, okay, John Henson makes $11 million a year, and you tell me who's a better value. Miles Plumlee at 5 or John Henson at 11. I think it's pretty clear.
Yeah. So you're saying there's people who wouldn't sign Miles Plumlee?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that on like Real GM and
big men get paid.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're a big man, you get paid in the NBA. I would take him $5 million a year, no question. Especially with the salary cap increasing like it's supposed to. He's been a better fit in the starting lineup than Greg Monroe, who makes a lot more than $5 million a year.
And you drop Monroe, and you got the cap room. You can offer him a little bit more, enough to make him stay.
I've seen a few alley oops. I didn't think he could get up like that for a couple of those passes.
Oh, he's very athletic.
And that's his defense isn't. It's not like he's a stud defender or anything, but it's an improvement from where we were with Monroe.
And he can protect the rim.
We can certainly do worse, especially big guys are hard to find. So I would take him over Monroe as the starting center next year. If Larry Sanders wants to come back, I'm willing to forgive, forget, and move on and sign him to a contract that if he goes and smokes weed, we owe him not a penny. Whatever we have to do there. But I'm okay with it. It's not my ideal starting center next year, but it's better than some other options that are available.
Well, I think we're coming to the end here. It's going to be a nice little short, guys. But Chuck, well, there's two things that need to happen. Number one, I need to hear Leigh do an American accent because it's the funniest shit you're ever going to hear. And then, Chuck, you wanted to talk about the arena a little bit, so I'm just going to kind of give you the floor for a minute.
Yeah, we'll get Leigh. Leigh, go ahead. We got to get Leigh's American accent here.
I got to think of something to say. Wait a minute. Oh my God! No, I can't. I cannot do it. Cannot do it.
Wasn't it that he's a dude? Like,
oh my God, it's so awesome. I'm getting there. I'll try.
He's gotten there. So, I just wanted to rant. I've been thinking about the arena lately. We kind of have talked about this before. March 1st was a deadline to submit plans to the city or whatever. We committed as a city and a state $250 million, and we have not gotten shit. I mean, let's be honest here. If you were going to spend that kind of money on anything, a car, a house, a mansion...
That'd be a nice car for $250 million.
But whatever, not $250 million, but you're going to spend a lot of money on something. You don't give that money blindly. The fact that we as fans, as the city, have not been shown more, both before the process even was authorized. I can't believe we approved this process blindly. And that we are still sitting here on March 9th and we know very little about what's going on here. It's just been kind of gnawing at me lately because part of it's frustration. I want to see what we're getting. We're all excited for this arena, and that's frustrating that we're in the dark. And it's to me, it's at the point where it's ridiculous that we've not seen anything. It's just, I had to get that off my chest and rant about it because...
It reminds me of the Simpsons episode where the guy comes in and sells Springfield to monorail and everybody's all excited and then,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we blindly purchased or agree to purchase this arena, which is, we know it's going to be good, but is there anything else you buy out there without first seeing most of what you're buying? I get things will change or be modified as the process goes on, new technology, whatever, 3, 4, 5 years from now when we're finishing it, but there's nothing else in the world that you would commit that kind of dime to without getting more information up front. It's at the point where it's frustration for me that we haven't seen more.
Well, I'm under the impression that, we were under pressure, or the new owners of the Bucks were under pressure, right? So playing devil's advocate, they kind of had to sign on the dotted line for something. And, maybe there wasn't enough time to get all those plans straight. Because, the new owners... We wouldn't even be in Milwaukee if they didn't sign something. So,
well, and not only that, to play devil's advocate, it's got to suck saying, okay, we're going to pay this and not even see what we're getting. But it could be worse. Like, say you're in Vegas, for instance, and you want to get a nice high class woman to spend some time with, and they hand you a little picture, say, here, call this number, you get her, and then you show it, and it doesn't live up to the hype of the picture. So
personal experience.
Maybe it's no. I'm just saying this is hypothetical. Maybe it would suck to get pictures of this beautiful thing, which I think could potentially still happen of developments and the entertainment district and all this stuff, and say, yes, I can't wait for this, and then upon further review, we couldn't get this done, and then you kind of let down by it. So
no doubt, I'm just a little frustrated that we haven't seen more and that we committed this much money to it. There was an article. It actually wasn't related to the Bucks, but I was reading an article about all the microbreweries that are opening in Milwaukee. There was a story, I think it was just yesterday, it was in the last couple of days, about Milwaukee Brewing is opening a second location in the former Pabst building, which is good for them. They're relatively small. They make my wife's favorite beer of all time. So it's good that they're going to have this second location with a tasting room, a rooftop beer garden, and it's going to basically overlook where the new arena is going to be. One of their concerns in this article was talking construction noise when the new arena starts going up. Okay. But they did talk about how they're excited to be moving into that location because the new arena is there, because all this development is going to be going on. They think it's going to be a prime location going forward, which I'm inclined to agree with. So there are people already making decisions about where they're opening businesses around this new arena. So to a certain extent, the doubters who said, we had the Bradley Center, nothing built up around it, we're starting to already see things build up around where the new location is going to be with the revival of the Pabst. I think there's still, in the article it talked, there's a couple suites and areas still in the old Pabst that's available for other businesses that are going to be going in, and they apparently know what they are, but they're secret at this point in time. So we're starting to see that. It's more frustration than anything else that here we are, March 9th. We're potentially supposed to break ground this summer sometime, and we don't even know what's going on. I know they still have to clean out that lot, but let's see something. I just want to see something.
Well, and there's many ways to, kind of get over the frustration. One of them is go see your local basketball team, which is what we're going to do. But
we'll be there tonight, hopefully.
First, we're going to hunt some Crocs and eat some Vegemite sandwiches and
Yes.
all that garbage. And
Exactly what I was hoping for.
Yeah, that's I tried Vegemite once. That was enough for me. I don't know. I don't get the appeal. I don't.
You don't know what you're fucking talking about.
Leigh had to get one F-bomb in before the end.
That's fine. But yes, we're going to be at the game. Free fleece giveaway. Sounds like a decent giveaway. Hopefully they're quality. And we'll be back on sooner than the last break because I don't think we have any more birthdays coming up, and we're not waiting on someone to fly across the world to join us on air.
Way to go, Leigh.
Yep.
All right, thanks a lot for joining us for the Buck Life Podcast. We'll see you next time. No worries, mates.
Cheers, guys.